Welcome to an episode of Cutting Child. Today we have with us somebody whom most mothers would call a suitable boy. Suitable boy. Do you all remember the novel The Suitable Boy by the author Vikram? I wanted to find out what exactly does a suitable boy mean. And I read the whole 1,000 boring pages of that book and still couldn't find what was a suitable boy. But yes, today I have with me a guest who has all the credentials most mothers would kill for to have as a son-in-law, IIT, a management background, a writer and a celebrity to boot. And all of it pure Thane born and bred. So please meet Mohit Uppal. Hi Mohit, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. So the thing about a suitable boy is that all suitable boys, you must remember, are only suitable on the outside and appearances are most deceptive. You only want to know suitable boys from the outside and they're good to judge from the exteriors.
He's really a good old boy. Let me give you a little bit more of a brief about Mohit. Mohit is a Thaneite and a hardcore Solonian.
Through and through.
At heart. His parents are doctors and Mohit chose to be different and chose to be an engineer. And then went on to what all parents would love their kids to get enrolled into IIT. And then when he was in IIT, he discovered and rather worked more on his passion. He was always a writer since childhood and he polished it a bit and then got into it. Rather than me talking about it, why don't we just listen about it from Mohit?
Absolutely.
So Mohit, didn't you face opposition from your parents when you took up engineering?
I did a lot of it, seeing as I am the second child and my brother definitely ditched the medical sciences and took engineering. So when it came to me, they tried to do some brainwashing ki at least one of our offsprings gets into medical. Yeah, but by nature, second children are extremely rebellious. So I immediately decided not to do medical and go into engineering, and that's where I began.
What made you choose IIT Mumbai rather than the other IITs or whatever?
So before I joined IIT Powai, I'd lived in some other places, lived in different pockets of time, and there was one single conclusion I came to: I want to be here and nowhere else. I want to be close to home, and the only IIT that was close to home was, of course, Powai.
So your parents had a good bet, having a son nearby who could come home on weekends.
Yeah.
So how exactly is IIT? IIT when we were young was very different. IIT now has a lot of women also around, but at the same time, the only thing about IIT we knew as doctors was Mood Indigo. We attended every single bit of it, and now I think it's been more than 25 years that we are passed out, and it's still going on. So, what is it about IIT other than the studies part? I don't want to talk about boring studies.
Sure. A lot of people nowadays, in today's day and age, know about IIT and know of IIT through a novel called 5 Point Someone by a writer called Chetan Bhagat. IIT is absolutely not like anything he's put in that novel. IIT, it's different because I owe a lot of where I am, a lot of my writing to IIT simply because it encourages you to follow whatever path you want. Okay. There's simply a lot of freedom and support over there for you to pursue whatever you feel you'll be great at.
But we keep on hearing stories in IIT about students not being able to handle the pressure and the high suicide rate of IIT. So is it really so horrendous, or is it that sometimes the wrong people for the wrong profile come in so they can't handle the pressure?
You might be surprised by this, and this might be slightly controversial, but 80% of the folks in most IITs are wrong people for the wrong profiles. I got into IIT, I did my engineering only to find out 2 years in that I don't really like engineering, and I had 3 more years left in IIT. So it became a tricky business to navigate, but it's a very serious thing, it's a serious topic. There is a lot of pressure, much like any other college out there. The only reason the spotlight is on IIT is because the expectations are simply way too high. I mean, the idea about IIT is that parents have, that other mentors have, that coaching institutes have, is simply a larger than life idea. At the end of the day, it's an institute, it's an engineering college
and
with normal kids.
There's too much pressure put on the kids to
Absolutely.
achieve what? But then they are doing quite a lot of innovative things. They have an incubation cell and all those stuff. What about you? What made you shift into management from engineering?
So here's how IIT works. You go through 5 years of engineering, and at the end of it, you have something called the placement season.
Okay.
The placement season is one huge pressure cooker event. It's like a few days of events wherein companies swarm upon you. They want to pick the best of the best. It becomes this sort of event wherein everything becomes that focal point, and you live in that bubble, and that is where all the pressure and all that expectation gets to you. The reason why I managed to coast through it, the reason why I managed to get a really good job on day one, which is supposed to be, extremely prestigious and so on and so forth, is simply because I had my family close to me. I live nearby. I live in Thane. I had all my friends close to me, and I was just able to kind of pass on that pressure. That's all.
Really great. So you mean to say a support system really works?
Absolutely. You need that support system.
You need a kind of support system with the kind of pressure that you're going to deal with in IIT. So you mean to say that it would be great if the IIT management is the kind of pressure that they put on the students?
No, it's not really the management. You have to think of it more as, think about it. The moment you think of someone as an IIT and you think of multi-crore packages, you think of extremely good marital prospects, things like these. And at the end of the day, that's not really what reality is. At the end of the day, you're just a normal person who went through 5 years of college life. And there's this
very less girls around.
Yeah, I mean, that is again, there's this huge social dissonance, right? The gender ratio is not ideal. And at the end of the day, after 5 years, I see a lot of my colleagues, my friends, who are not as adept at that kind of dealing with that kind of social life once they come out of it.
I've noticed this thing about IITians, because they don't get to interact with the other gender. They become very reserved. They're poor at communication skills. Not in terms of professional communication skills, but when it comes to interpersonal relationships and also in dealing with friendships with the other sex. They find themselves at a loss, and sometimes that hurts them also, because in general they are very good human beings, but I think what the society expects out of them is something different.
Absolutely. So it's something I called an IQ versus EQ. The moment you come into IIT, IIT does take the best of the best from the country, but only in terms of IQ. There is a very important segment of your cognitive space called EQ, which they completely disregard. And for some reason, and this is a huge gap that is currently there in IIT courses and in the IIT life, that they don't pay enough attention to your EQ, emotional quotient, and your emotional needs. And invariably, at the end of the day, there's this huge dissonance wherein a lot of folks aren't able to deal with that kind of pressure and that kind of social structure outside, because it's so much more different than what you face in your own bubble of
So what made you take up writing? Was it this kind of pressure that made you take up writing, or was it just a passion?
Pressure is always there. I think it was just I took up writing to escape from the ordinary life. That's what I took at it. And coupled with the fact that I've been writing since I was a kid. I've been writing fan fiction for Harry Potter and Enid Blyton since I was a kid. I've got like tons and tons of old yellow pages with like scribbled with pilot pen. I swear all kinds of stories. And that's where it all began for me.
It all began. So who are your favorite authors who influenced you?
My most favorite authors are Jonathan Stroud, who wrote this brilliantly sarcastic series called the Bartimaeus Trilogy, and of course P.G. Wodehouse, the king of dry wit and British wit.
So that's great. For all the people who don't know, this is a book which our great Mohit Uppal has written, Here Be the Dragons. Now this book was chosen to be one of the best books in 2016. It was on the Amazon bestseller list, and it also sold a lot of copies and made Mohit quite a bit of a rich guy, apart from all the fat package that he earns in the big four firm that he works. And it has an interesting story. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets picked up to be made into a series. Who would you want to be the heroine? Priyanka Chopra, Alia Bhatt, or God alone knows?
I love Preeti Zinta. I know she's old. She's old, but come on.
She's as old as me.
I think you can be a good enough protagonist.
I can be your grandmother. So tell us about the book Here Be Dragon. So what is it all about and the story, and how did you come about writing this particular book?
So A lot of people, when they first come to know about me and my writing and they figure out that I got published at the age of 23, they are immediately rendered awestruck. And I tell them that age often has nothing to do with it. I simply had an amazing story to tell. I had the most incredible, enigmatic characters that I've ever met in my life.
When I read this book, and normally, at my age now, I just skim through books, but I found this absolutely fascinating. It has an Indian, an American, a Korean, and a girl. It's something like a Hindi picture, masala pot boiler. So how did you manage to get a whole of Sholay into this?
The idea for the book began when I actually met the aforementioned Korean and American during an internship in Rome.
Real life characters.
They are very real,
Okay.
and I simply put them in certain events and context, and I just knew what they would do and what they would say, and the plot simply unraveled by itself. At the end of the day, it's about an Indian, American and a Korean who meet at this bar in Italy, and as young men have a tendency to do, they go on this wild night through Rome and through Italy, only to realize at the end of the day that there is some sinister supernatural force that is driving their journey. At the end of the day, the book is about friendship. Each one of these characters is in their mid-20s, and each one of them is dealing with something called the quarter-life crisis. And they can't solve their own crisis, so they look to each other, they look to their friends to solve it. And it's just a culmination of love and friendship that solves the day.
Great. So happens to be a very interesting book. It's racy, it has got everything. It has got masala, it has got fights, it's got a lot of romance, and it has got a lot of things. So I would rather, instead of talking more about the book, request you guys to go and buy a copy of the book and make sure that it comes in the top 3. And I'll be very happy if you guys could do that.
Yes.
Now, talking about this book, how come HarperCollins, which is supposed to be such a difficult publishing firm, they reject more than they publish, pick you up? What was your experience in dealing with MNC?
It was when I started out, a lot of folks I spoke to told me it's impossible. You can't get through a publishing house. The number of copies that they receive on a daily basis is just mind-boggling. They have something called the slush pile, which is nothing but a host of manuscripts that they give to a junior copywriter to read through, and then if they like something, they pass it on. Simply put, I got lucky. I used a lot of my leverage that I had in IIT. The Insight media body in IIT gave me a lot of push, recommended me to a lot of publishing houses, and that got a lot of interest. And at the end of the day, HarperCollins was simply the right fit for me because they just loved the story. They loved that it was different. It's not your usual campus romance, adorable loser.
For an Indian person to write pure fiction book, is something very different. There are very few people who have written a racy fiction that was a thriller. We can put it as a thriller.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself? Do you see this getting converted into a serial, a movie? Have you tried doing something about it?
I would love it. I in fact had a very interesting kind of meeting with a director of a production house. Unfortunately, the meeting went a little south, in which he kind of told me that Mohit, this book is amazing, the plot is amazing, but we gotta adjust it for the Indian audience. So instead of the Korean, let's make him Kashmiri, and instead of the idea of military camps in Korea, let's keep the setting as the Kashmir Valley. And then I put my hands up. I was like, this is not my story anymore.
So it's like the typical potboiler thing where they adjust everything.
Yeah, and I didn't want to change my story as much. Yeah.
When you joined A.T. Kearney and they came to know that you're an author, and that you're an author living in Thane, for a South Mumbai, Thane is in the boondocks. So what is the kind of image that they were looking at, and were they surprised by a balance of intellect, wit and brains? What exactly is it like? How do they treat a Thaneite in the big four?
So, sure, there is this existing idea of Thane being in the boondocks and somewhere on the outskirts. They don't really know where, and they are like, haha, maybe probably we need a passport to go there, and usual limericks like that keep coming to me. But then, of course, they see that there is a writer who comes from Thane. They clearly value a writer in their immediate social circle, so they are very proud of it. And on every opportunity I get, I tell them that the per capita talent in Thane is more than you'll find anywhere else in this country or in Mumbai.
Yep, see, that's such a great thing for a Thaneite. What is it about Thane that drags you back, apart from the fact that your parents are living here?
Listen, people tell me the biggest, most exciting things happen in big cities, but I tell them the most magical ones happen in the towns that surround these big cities. Thane for me is akin to nostalgia. When I think of nostalgia, I think of Thane. This is where I grew up. This is where my school was. This is where my fondest memories have been. My childhood has been. My entire social structure, my social support, emotional support has been over here. And I would want to spend the rest of my life here writing out the rest of my books, because I think this is where the biggest stories happen.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Now, since you spoke so much positive about Thane, what kind of improvements would you like to be seen in Thane? Grown up from a very small thing to a very big thing and a bustling metropolis, but then there are some lacunae. So what would you like something to be changed about Thane?
My desires for Thane would be entirely selfish. I would like to see two things in Thane. One is I want to see a sort of physical platform for all writers, poets, artists, painters to just come together, congregate, and kind of understand and complement each other's work. Because
so kind of a lit fest or literary
absolutely
fest.
A literary fest, as a writer I would love it if there was a literary fest.
It should happen because Thane has some of the best literary brains around.
It does.
I think it has got more per capita literary talent than what assembles at the Jaipur Literary Fest. So that's a good thing. I should pass it on to somebody.
It should be.
To organize one.
More than that, it has a fantastic reader base. I've been to a lot of book clubs in Thane. I've done readings over there, but these are small pockets of places where people come together. It would be tremendous if you could have this one central kind of platform wherein everyone could come together and just understand and appreciate literature. It'll be amazing. And the second thing that I would absolutely love is diluted or just disintegrated over time is libraries. Some of my most electric moments of childhood have been in libraries, and a lot of them have disappeared, and I kind of find that sad. And I think there's a lot of value in still having physical brick and mortar libraries.
So given a preference, would you prefer to read a book or read it on Kindle?
Oh, I'm a book person. I shun Kindles left, right and center. There's something about the smell of a book that just gets me in there, that brings me into the world of the story.
That's really great. Now, thanks a lot for talking about Thane and everything. And now we are going to do a parody of the great Karan Johar.
Oh no.
So I'm going to ask your favorite 5 questions. Your favorite food in Thane? Fast.
Shepuri.
Your best eating joint in Thane?
Pizza Express.
Best hangout place with friends?
With friends, Meadows.
Best place for a romantic date?
Uppal has become really good nowadays. Yes. Don't judge me for it, but it's very good nowadays.
Okay. Another thing is, what would you like to do as a writer in Thane? Would you like to encourage a younger breed and hold some kind of a session for them, maybe in the summer workshops? Would you like to do something like that?
I would love to do that. I've been doing a number of these with small clubs, with road track clubs around, but I would love it if I could hold a kind of central workshop and just talk about my experiences. I don't presume to, teach them or preach them something. It's not something that I'm really taught, but certainly sharing my experience would be, I think, very helpful, because it was extremely helpful for me when I learned from other authors as well.
Now the last question. Suitable boy or unsuitable boy?
Unsuitable boy and most taken and out of the game boy.
Well, crowd, that was Mohit Uppal for you. I'd rather be very happy if all of you could go and get a copy of his book and read it right now and post it on his Facebook page. So, here be the dragons, and the biggest dragon, Mohit Uppal. Thank you.
Thank you so much.